going to try and replace all four of them because they're going to retire. Michelle comes to us from Jackson Township Municipal Utility Authority, where she served in that position for 10 years as a qualifying purchasing agent. We were fortunate to have her join us. She's also very active with the state Qualifying Purchasing Agents and Association. She graduated Kearney High School and she has certification from Rutgers University. So just like everyone to treat her nicely.
Michelle, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, with that then, I'll ask for a motion for the approval of the minutes.
Second.
Mr. Kieran, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have a report of the officers. Any questions on the treasurer's report? If not, I will call for a motion for acceptance of the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Joan, second. All in favor?
Aye.
One opposed? Any abstentions? We now have a report of committees and staff. The personnel procurement, Ms. Clementhal, would you please table that?
Certainly. The first is a purchase order authorization for exchanger brand heat exchangers, with the purchase order going to Exchanger Inc.
We solicited quotations for the replacement of these exchanger brand heat exchangers, and we received two quotations, one from Exchanger and the other from Unison. We're recommending that the board award a purchase order to Exchanger for these replacement parts.
Any questions? Senator?
The committee does recommend that we accept this. Sorry. Those in favor?
We're going to do a motion now? Okay.
Yeah, let's do it now. Okay, so I'll move it myself.
I will second it.
Okay.
Okay. This is for authorization, resolution
Resolution 052.
052. We have a motion and a second. I need a roll call on this.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kenny?
Yes.
Ms. Daniel?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria?
Yes.
Next is Resolution 053, which is furnishing of 4 Barrack Flame for registered bank assemblies. I'm sorry, 2 Metro Valve and QAs.
We solicited quotations for this item. Unfortunately, there's only one manufacturer of the brand of Barrack Flame Arrestor and Metro Valve and Actuation of that manufacturer. And we're recommending the purchase of these 4 arrestor bank assemblies for our system.
Any questions? Can I have a motion for resolution 53, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Roll call, please.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Levinson? Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Daniel?
Yes.
Ms. Victoria?
Yes.
Our third and last purchase order is the removal, repair, and reinstallation of a 3...
We're going to add number 62 again, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry?
We're going to add number 60. There's a late
Oh,
start.
right, yes, there is a movement. Thank you for reminding me to go through that next. So this is the removal, repair, and installation of a 350 HP vertical motor.
We sought quotes on this, and we received 2 quotes, one from Graham Industrial and the other from Continental Electric Motors. Both firms have done business with the joint meeting, and we're recommending the award to Graham Industrial Services in the amount of $19,000.
Any questions?
$19,505, just for the record.
Okay, so noted. Any questions? Can I have a motion, please?
Second.
Karen seconds it. Can I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenbaum?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Livingston?
Yes.
Mr. Attorney?
Yes.
Ms. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Floyd?
Yes.
In your packet received this evening, there's a resolution number 60, and this is an emergency purchase order for the purchase of a Caterpillar gen set for the cogen facility. And you can have the explanation, the background on this.
This pertains to the 4 engines that we have at the cogeneration facility. We normally operate with 3 engines, and we have one on standby for maintenance purposes. About a week ago, we had a generator failure in one of the engines. This is highly unusual. We're investigating why it happened. Okay, but in the meantime, that means instead of having 3 engines running and a backup, we're now down to just 3 engines running. The concern is that if we have 1 engine out of service for maintenance, which we're going to, that leaves us with 2 engines. So it's not an optimal operating condition to be in, especially if we have a power failure. We'll only be able to run a limited amount of equipment, and whereas normally with 3 engines, we can run a lot of equipment to maintain our treatment efficiency. So this is a very significant area of concern for us. We've gone out, we've got a price for a new generator, and for the labor to remove and install, it's approximately $120,000. It's going to take about 16 to 20 weeks to get the new generator delivered to the site.
The policy and procurement group agrees with passing this resolution.
Strongly actually agree, as we explained in our meeting, how important this cogen operation is, and if you have a power outage, the saying that TSC&G is not really quickly to respond, which would greatly limit the amount of processing we can do. And we're also, as a sub-note, go as fast as we can to make sure that we can protect this plant, because that's the thing that will keep us going in any big storm. So it's very important. And there is, like you said, it's built off the shelf, so it's a 16-week to 20-week lead time. So we felt it very important to move on this project as quickly as possible. Yes.
Question. This is the gen set, not the diesel generator,
Correct, this is a gen set.
which attaches to the generator.
Diesel engine.
Diesel
Diesel
engine.
engine. Right.
So it's not getting a 5th.
No.
Okay.
Just a background, it seems like there's an investigation, so is this, how old is this? Is this out of the ordinary? I mean,
It's about 5 years old, and yes, it is out of the ordinary. But until we actually remove the generator itself and send it out for an investigation, we don't know exactly what occurred in there and why. There are also several breakers and protective relays that, quite frankly, should have prevented this from happening, and we're also investigating that. A very sophisticated, complicated electronic control system.
The useful life is about 15 years.
Looking into all the possible possibilities.
As a matter of background, before we built this cogen plant, there was another powerhouse at the joint meeting, and those engines ran from 1982 to 2009, ran for 27 years. The generators never failed. The engines had a lot of maintenance, but the generators never failed like this. So it's the most unusual.
Were they standby or were they continuous?
Continuous.
Continues to.
Yes.
But is there a warranty on this if it turns out to be?
The warranty is over.
So,
Yeah, we had a 3-year warranty.
okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
And my car just turned 50,000 miles, so you know where that's going.
Okay, with that case, can I ask for a motion, please? I'm sorry.
Whatever happened to the project that we were going to expand the facility to include the other building?
We prepared a report, and we showed that it would be feasible to connect the dewatering facilities to the cogen system by running power lines from under the road to the other building and changing out some electrical switchgear. There's several different options, one on a temporary basis, one on a permanent basis, that would automatically, we just run that system all the time. But we have not, joining the staff and CME, we haven't moved on that project. The report's complete, it's ready to go, it's just a matter of decision to do.
And the 3 engines would accommodate that power load?
No, you would need to have more engines. On an emergency basis, like we went through with Sandy, yeah, you could shed some load at the main plant and then be able to run the dewatering facilities. Not 100%, at least so you could move your way forward, not be shut down completely.
For the two new members that are at least sitting here, can you just basically say how much this cogen saves us a year in terms of when we generate our own
Well,
electricity?
we generate the value of approximately $1.8 million worth of power on an annual basis. It costs us about $650,000 to $800,000 a year for maintenance and supplies and things to do that. So we actually save a little over $1 million a year on power. So that power, we would be paying 11.5 cents per kilowatt hour all in distribution and everything. It costs us about 6.5 cents per kilowatt hour to generate our own power.
And not only that, as we said before the meeting, it paid for itself with Sandy when we still have power and a lot of places didn't have power. Otherwise, we would have been pushing waste into the, we were not going to even process the
We
waste.
stayed online for a week without utility power.
So, very important project. Okay, any other questions on that? Okay, can I have a motion, please, then, for resolution 60, please? Okay. Roll call, please.
Ms. Roselle?
Yeah.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Livingston? Yes. Mr. McDermott?
Yes.
Ms. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Corey?
Yes. Okay, you have within your packet resolution number 59, with a resolution authorizing execution of access agreement with the city of
We
Lisbon.
still have a couple more. We still have a couple. We needed to change order.
Yeah.
We still have a couple.
To change orders.
We still have 3 items. I'm sorry.
So
Go ahead.
the change orders, the first one is the first change order for the plant laboratory basement entrance modifications with Allied Construction Group Incorporated.
This laboratory was inundated with water as a result of the superstorm Sandy a few years ago. A ramp that went down into the basement, flooded the basement. The ramp has been eliminated. We now have a stairwell, and this change order is for some additional pavement that was not anticipated, but deemed to be important for the operation of the plant. They have a gravel area that's not paved. If it was paved, they would be able to keep the maintenance of the facility better and much easier to plow snow when it comes. So we recommend this additional change.
Any questions?
There were just 2 other points that came up at the committee meeting. One was that this had been bid separately, would have cost much more, and the other is that there is a utility pole in the middle of the area that the staff took care of, and that saved about $4,000.
It's actually closer to 7, wasn't it? About $1,600.
It saved that. Okay. But we are spending almost $2,000 because that's the amount above the allowance for what not specified. which this is.
Any questions? Motion, please, on resolution 55.
Motion.
Adjourned. Second, please. Any second?
I'll say.
So seconds it. Roll call, please.
Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Lennox,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Levinson.
Yes.
Mr. Attorney,
Yes.
Ms. Daniel.
Yes.
Mrs. Torres.
Yes. Resolution 56.
Second change order is also with Allied Construction Group, Inc., the replacement of exhaust heat exchangers.
In the cogen treatment facility, we recover the heat from the exhaust, transfer it to water, which in turn heats various facilities at the treatment plant. These units have been online now continuously for about 5 years, and they have deteriorated, and they need to be replaced. As part of the replacement and pre-construction meeting, looking at the installation, we determined that some of the flexible connectors, which expand and contract, were slightly distorted from the heating and cooling cycles over the years, and that it would be better to purchase new ones and install new ones while everything's apart, than to try to use the old ones, which might fail due to metal fatigue when we install it, and then we would have even more cost. So it seemed to make sense to replace. There's 4 flexible connectors for each of the 4 engines, so that's a total of 16 flexible connectors that are going to be replaced.
Any comments, Mr. McCarron?
So this, because I understand what you're saying, this is part of the job. I'm trying to understand why this hasn't been bid out separately, why it's extra work clearly, versus just a change order. You know, it's not a standalone, what you're saying, it's not a standalone pieces, these things,
This heat exchanger is an integral part of the heat exchange system.
yeah.
And these are parts. These are like fittings between the heat exchanger and the piping and the engine, which operates at about 1100 degrees. So it's just like the exhaust of your car. It's extremely hot. These fittings, these flexible connectors are like an accordion. They go in and out slightly as it warms and cools. And if you take a piece of metal and you keep bending it, eventually it heats up and it breaks. All right. So we're concerned that in the removal of these units, that we may end up having a failure after it's put back together again. And if we have a failure after it's put back together again, then we'll have to go out and buy new ones anyhow. So,
Are you asking the engineering or the legal justification for?
I guess both, like I'm not sure, I don't understand how integrated this thing is to the part of the current job they're doing. So that's why it's a change order versus not just going out and separately bidding this.
So my understanding is when they initially bid the job, these heat exchangers were not included in the spec.
Right.
Upon inspection and preparing to do the change, they recognized that this additional piece of equipment needed to be swapped out. The statute allows a 20% change order. So they asked the vendor contractor to give them a price for that. Because it's less than 20% of the original bid, we are allowed under law to do it. We technically could go out and say we want a new bid. We could do that. But I presume management has looked at it and feels comfortable that this is a reasonable cost for this work.
the material costs alone are about over $20,000, probably closer to $25,000, just for the materials purchased.
So it is, you think it is a reasonable, just as a
Oh,
change?
yeah, yes.
That is my question.
Okay, that's what I figured you were trying to get to, yeah.
And in terms of percentage, it's 60,000 divided by,
It's like 8%.
It's
Yeah, it's
like
like
7.5%, 8%, so it's not.
So that's why, it wasn't originally in the spec when they put the bid out, but when they looked at it, they realized there was a problem.
Okay, do I have any other questions? Can I ask for a motion on 56, please?
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
Roll call?
Ms. Jones? Yes. Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Levinson? Mr. McCarron?
Yes.
Ms. Stango?
Yes.
Gloria?
Yes. All right, we'll go to 57.
Resolution 57 is authorizing the sale of surplus personal property no longer needed on an online auction. This property is Rex, renewable energy credits.
Yeah. 2 years ago, we sold the renewable energy credits with an online system through the DCA, and we're asking through this resolution to again go back onto an online auction site for the sale of these renewable energy credits. At that time, we received $2.49, I believe, per credit. This year it's up to about $15 to $17 in the market for the class ones. So hopefully we'll attain that. But anyway, regardless, we're looking to sell as many credits as we can, and we're asking for the approval of what we
So last time we saw $15,000 per year, so based upon the new number, it would be about $100,000 a year.
Who's running the auction?
Evermarkets.com, and they're listed on the DCA website as an approved vendor.
EVO, markets.com.
Markets.
All right. Any other questions from the board? Can I have a motion then on resolution 57?
So moved.
Leventhal, second?
Second.
Jones? Roll call, please.
Ms. Jones? Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. McCarron?
Yes.
Ms. Stango?
Yes.
Mr. Gloria?
Yes.
That's it from the
Yay.
planning personnel.
Oh, no, let's, I want to tie that to paying the bills. We do that, you want to do 59 or we want to do paying the bills right now?
Let's only do 59 and do 60.
Okay,
We
we
did
did
60. We need 58, 59.
Okay, well, I have to tie one, I have to tie 50 with 58.
Okay.
Right.
And 51. 50, 51,
Right,
58.
yeah, we're not going to do this. So, why don't we talk about this 59, this access agreement with the city of Elizabeth? Who wants to talk about that?
I was contacted about a week ago, and Joe, of course, also was, pertaining to there's a flood control levee system along the Elizabeth River, and it was constructed by the Army Corps of Engineers sometime in the 1970s. The City of Elizabeth has contacted us concerning access to those levees. There's a small portion that is adjacent to the town meeting property. So in order to get to that, perform the maintenance that's required, they're looking to enter into an access agreement with us, so that they and the contractor can, again, reach the levees and do whatever maintenance they need to do. This would be on a short-term basis, approximately 90 days. There may be down the road the need for a long-term agreement for their normal, say, annual maintenance. So right now, we just focus on them getting in to do the short-term repairs that are necessary.
Any questions from the board?
Yes.
There's no questions, I'll ask for a motion on 59, please.
We'll get to that in close second.
Motion, please. Jones, second? Second, please.
Second.
Leventhal, second. Hard time today. Getting vote out here.
Just aside, the rest of it, we received a request from Public Service this afternoon. They want to come and do some work on their pipeline in the same area. All right, Steve?
That's correct. There's a 30-inch gas pipeline in that area as well.
So we're gonna have to hold them off.
Okay. In roll call, 59?
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. McCarron?
Yes.
Ms. Stango?
Yes.
Mr. Gloria?
Yes. Okay, now, what I would like is Resolution 50, which is the payment of bills, and sorry, 58, which will give the executive director an authorization to pay bills June 20th to August 21st, because we do not meet during the summer. So I would like a motion to move both Resolution 50 and 58 for payment, in regards to payment of bills. So moved. Mr. Attorney, second, please.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Jones? Ms. Rosenthal?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. McBurney?
Yes.
Ms. Randall?
Yes.
Mr. Gloria?
Yes. I think that takes care of, no, one more. With one more, we need 51 for our third quarter assessment. Any questions on that?
I just have a suggestion. I know this is done sometimes, and I know it's done annually, but could we have an attachment to the resolution on a quarterly basis indicating what the assessment is? Numbers? So,
You received it previously, but shall we?
Yes.
Okay.
That's so noted. With that, any other questions? Not a entertained motion for 51 for the third quarter assessment approval. Well, might be ready.
No, she didn't make that.
So moved.
Rosenthal, move second.
Second.
Okay.
Levinson. Roll call, please. Wow.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenthal?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Attorney?
Yes.
Ms. Randall?
Yes.
Mr. Gloria?
Yes. All right, continuing along, I believe we want to back to item B, staff treatment plant reports, industrial pre-treatment reports.
Motion, staff action.
Joint motion
For staff and professional?
for staff and professional. Okay, are there any questions on the reports within staff and professionals? If not, I'll ask for a motion, please.
Motion, Levinson.
Mr. Levinson.
Sorry. What? Nobody's speaking up. There
I'll second.
we go, second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Wow. Opposed? Abstentions. Okay, that's passed. So we've gone through there. Anything with correspondence?
Mr. Chairman, as noted earlier, Mr. Ronald Rice, his term expires at the end of this month, and apparently he has accepted a position in Washington Department of Education, so we wish him well, and we prepare an appropriate resolution for him when we return in September. And Ms. Jones contacted me this afternoon to tell me that her term expires this month, and she has been nominated to serve as a freeholder for Essex County. So this will be her last meeting.
Well, I think the board would like to congratulate Ms. Jones on your election, and
Certainly.
I'm sure we'll have something in some kind of resolution thanking you, but I'd like to thank her for the many years you put in, a lot more than probably most anybody.
How many years is it?
Debbie's been serving on the board for 20 years, so she's
20 years.
experienced, she takes it. She's a young girl when she takes it.
I want to thank my support family, because I've been around a long time with you, and you were very professional, very helpful, and you were very qualified to do the work for a joint meeting, and it was an honor for me to sit with the commissioners and the directors to serve for this period of time of our municipality. So you'll be hearing from me, but I'll be on a different level. As 21 citizen of Essex County, I'm running as freeholder at large.
Very good. That's very impressive. Very impressive. Let me ask you a question, because I saw we're just about in the forum today. Are we going to get a name for Essex County and North Irvington shortly, or what? Well, we're off the summer, so we got 2 months. Okay, all right, so we're
And they
okay.
have to have their meetings
And Irvington will be sworn in July 1, and it will be official, and the clerk will submit the name.
Gotcha.
to the-
All right. Okay, very good. Okay, any other correspondence?
No.
Any public comment? Anybody from the public wish to comment? Seeing none?
I do have one item, closed session.
Okay, so we do have an item with regards to litigation, potential action litigation. Could you read the notice to the executive session, please?
In accordance with Section 7 of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231 PL 1975, permitting the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and as a joint meeting is one of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist as the general nature of the subject matter to be discussed in litigation, and it is anticipated at this time that this subject matter will be made public at a later date.
That's only for one item, right?
Correct.
Litigation, okay, yes.
We need a motion.
All right, we need a motion to go into closed executive session.
So moved.
Second by Mr. Levinson. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, is there any unfinished business?
There was no unfinished.
Okay, then I'll ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
There's no new business, and next meeting is September 18th.
September 18th, everybody, unless there's an emergency.
Sorry, guys.
Okay, got a motion to adjourn the meeting, please.
So
Ms.
moved.
Leventhal. Second. Ms. McFerrin, I was going to tell you, but anyway. All in favor?
Have a happy summer.